Is this Maimed a big Chiddush, or is this a Pashta word? In other words, I'll tell you what I'm asking you. This is really an excuse for a conversation, but I'm asking a question. Safe call safe, yeah. There's a lotion from the Rebbe Rashab. There's a lotion from the Alter Rebbe that the Alter Rebbe said about himself. Als given by Magid, und sie given das Uder Shoina und das Uder Shnia. And at a certain point, the Alter Rebbe said, the Alt, was ich habe gesagt, ist das Alt von das Uder Shoina. Von das Uder Shnia habe ich nicht angegeben zu reden. Das ist eine Lotion von Alter Rebbe. I saw it now, I'm reading now the Ramach Asius. I think it's in there. And the Alter Rebbe said, everything I said, the Alter Rebbe said, everything that's Alt von das Uder Shoina, he meant Suda Rishain of Shabbos, so the Shnia from Shabbos Bechashon game today. That's number one. The Nochifaran that the Rebbe Rashab used to say, as das Azach was says Ton and Chsidis. Ton and Chsidis. Ton and Chsidis only a Rebbe to learn a Maimer and to create from it. Ton and Chsidis. So the Rebbe Rashab said about himself, noch da Pek was man noch nicht angeben zu tun. There's Pek und Pek, ganz in the Pekla from Chassidus, which we didn't even unable to turn. So now let me sort of give you the Das Tachten of this, the Balabata cook on this whole thing, okay? We have today in print over 2,000 Maimorim of the Alter Rebbe. In print, over 2,000 Maimorim of the Alter Rebbe. Some of them are Nuschois Shoiners of the same Maimir. But we have in the Alter Rebbe a lot of Maimorim. Yeah. In Hayom Yom it says that when the Tzemach Tzedek made the Ukutateir and Teir, he had 2,000 Maimon Alter Rebbe, and he chose the choices to put the Ukutateir and Teir. We have about that number. Could we say that we have all the Maimon Alter Rebbe that Tzemach Tzedek had? No, but we could say that we have a Rov. Yeah. And by the way, the Tzemach Tzedek wrote Hagos and Maramakemis on all the 2,000 Marmad Alter Rebbe, just like you have in the Likutei Torah. Tzemach Tzedek wrote those kind of on all the Maimorim, all of them, and they were burnt in fires. You imagine? In other words, you have 43 Gracham Veratera. You have over there Ha'oris and Maramakemis on some of the Maimorim of the Alter Rebbe, which are not in the Likutei Torah, but a lot is lost. A Rov is lost. The Tzemach Tzedek had written Ha'oris and Maramakemis on every single one of the Maimon of the Alter Rebbe. You get what I'm saying? Yeah? And a lot of them are lost in fires. Now, the Mittler Rebbe said Chassidus. All my Maimon that the Mittler Rebbe said were based on the Maimon of the Alter Rebbe. But, if you count up how many Maimon of the Alter Rebbe, the Mittler Rebbe was Masbir, what percentage, Alter Rebbe, if we have 2,000 Maimon of the Alter Rebbe, what percentage of the Maimon of the Alter Rebbe was the Mittler Rebbe Fateh? What percentage? In other words, how many Maimon that we have from the Mittler Rebbe? How many Maimon of the Alter Rebbes do we have the Mittler Rebbe's beard on? So if the Alter Rebbe had 2,000 Maimon, I would gamble, I would argue, not more than 200, 300, which is a lot. It's a lot. In other words, Alter Rebbe said 2,000 Maimon. The Mittler Rebbe wrote Hezbollah on those Maimorim, but he didn't write Hezbollah on all of them. He wrote Hezbollah on some of them. Now, the Tzemach Tzedek did the same thing. Now, the Tzemach Tzedek's Maimorim in longhand is not a lot. You know, the Tzemach Tzedek's Maimorim, we don't have a lot of Maimorim like the Derech Mitzvah where the Tzemach Tzedek actually writes out what he's thinking. We have Hanoches, with Hillel Paritcher. There was a Yid named the Berel Kalisker, the Rebbe Marash had Hanoches. So given Ayidus Hasten Gloiberman also wrote Hanoches, Bam Tzemach Tzedek. Yeah, but we have the Hagos. The Hagos and Tzemach Tzedek that we have is also not 2,000 Maimorim. It's maybe 4 or 5. The Likutei Torah is about 400 Maimorim together. Likutei Torah's notes we don't have, just Likutei Torah's. Now, the Rebbe Marash's Maimorim are on the Tzemach Tzedek's Maimorim. The Rebbe Rashab's Maimorim are on the Rabbeim of all the Rabbeim before. All 4 Rabbeim before. But if you look at the Maimorim of the Rebbe Rashab, you'll realize that the percentage of my morim of the Alter Rebbe, not the Mittler Rebbe, of the Alter Rebbe, that the Rebbe Rashab was mefateach, is also a small percentage. It's not even half. It's not even near half. The Frierdiker Rebbe's Maimorim are all on the Maimorim of the Rebbe Rashab. All of them. All the Frierdiker's Maimorim are Maimorim of the Rebbe Rashab with Hagos. And there's a guy who made a Mafteach, each Maim of the Frierdiker Rebbe, where it comes in the Rebbe Rashab. What I just told you, in other words, is this. The Alter Rebbe said 2,000 Maimorim. All the Rebbeim after him are Mevayir, maybe a quarter or a third of what the Alter Rebbe said. That means 2/3 of the original Chabad are in the original undeveloped. Yeah? Then along comes our Rebbe and does whatever he wants. The Rebbe broke all the rules. He just said whatever he wanted, including chazeting original Maimorim of the Alter Rebbe. This Maimon the Rebbe chazet. Yeah? Now, I don't know this for sure, but I would gamble that there's a Maim from the Alter Rebbe, which is very short. It's Marmak Tzadim, yeah? There's no Maim from the Mittler Rebbe on it. There's no Maim from Mitzvah Tzedek on it. There's no Maim from the Rebbe Marash on it. There's no Maim from the Rebbe Rashab on it. And there's no, the Rebbe Pasha took original Maim from the Alter Rebbe. Maimorim that no Rebbe was mefatech, and they gesagt. And you should know, oftentimes the Rebbe used to say these Maimorim word for word, including the Vidals. There's tapes. We hear the Rebbe say Vidal. He would say, if it said in the original Vidal, the Rebbe used to say these Maimorim word for word. So what I'm asking you is, Azoy, the Rebbe chazas a Maim from the Alter Rebbe, and again, I'm going to assume, I could be wrong, but we're going to assume for the purposes of this conversation that none of the Rabbeim after the Alter Rebbe took this shtikel Maimer and was mefateich it. The Rebbe came along and he's masbir and mais mit levushim, there could be mishana etzim. So I'm asking a poshta kasha. Is this word that the Rebbe is saying a word that you have in other Maimorim, or is it a chiddush? That is a Maimer from the Alter Rebbe, which the Mittler Rebbe never has it, Tzemach Tzedek never has it, the Rebbe Marash never has it, the Rebbe Rashab never has it, the Frierdiker Rebbe never has it, and the Rebbe has it. And then he says Biur, right? The Rebbe used to say the Maimer from the Alter Rebbe. You could hear the tapes. He would say the Maimer word for word. I'm not saying he did it in this case. He would say the Maimer word for word, and then he would say Biur. Is it the pshat that the Rebbe is finding in the Maimer of the Alter Rebbe, Chidushim and Chassidus Chabad, that Poshet are not known from any other place in Chassidus? Or is it the pshat that it's SOS, same old story? You know, okay, you paste, Mekleptsum. You understand my question? You understand my question, Mendel? You understand my question?
Is it a one-time thing?
It's not a one-time thing, no. There's a whole year, Manu from the Rebbe, based on Alter Rebbe. You know that? There's a whole year. Like Chav Beis, Chav Gimel.
I'm saying is it a one-time thing? This chiddush is a one-time chiddush, like it's not said in other places. That's correct.
Right. Is it a word that the Alter Rebbe said that's different than what the other word of the Alter Rebbe, which the later Rebbe are masbir? Or is it Pashat? The Alter Rebbe said it 10 times, the Rebbe is in masbir. I want to say that when the Rebbe said my from the Alter Rebbe, and he gave these short little esbeirim, these are chidushim adirim and chassidus Chabad, because there's no shalshelis. Most of the Maimorim, you know, the Rebbe once showed Label Groner. The Rebbe did a sicha from the Rebbe actually in Fabrengens, where the Rebbe spoke about this. You could take a Maimer from the Rebbe, our Rebbe, and you could find 7 versions of it. How the Rebbe said it, how the Frierdiker Rebbe said it, how the Rebbe Rashab said it, and you could see it's the same Maimer, all the way back to the Alter Rebbe. Some of the Maimorim you can have from certain Rebbes 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 the same time, same Maimer. You understand what I'm saying? The Rabbeim am Ibi Yichaz, the Zelb Maimorim from the Rabbeim Frier. But all of them together is only a small percent. I don't mean 5%, I mean 25%, 30%, 40%. It's not even half of the Alter Rebbe's originals. And when our Rebbe comes along and just gives you the Alter Rebbe's Maimer, and remember when the Rebbe said this Maimer in Tafshach Chaf Aleph, nobody knew this Maimer existed. It's not like today, you take it off the shelf. My mom didn't exist. The Rebbe got that Ksav. The Rebbe has that Maimer. Only the Rebbe had it. And then he's saying Hezbollah. So my shaila is the Rebbe saying this Maimer, because it's the same thing as the Maimorim. No, but then it's a different one. Or is it a Pshat, it's a piece of Chabad, was hat sich keinmal nicht entwickelt. Stikla Chabad von alten Rebben, wo die später dicke Rebbes, und ich sehe es schon, in der Loschen von der Rebbe Rashab, noch nicht angeheben zu tun. And I want to say, and of course I'm saying this just because I want to say, not because I have a raya, not because I've said it, es will sich sagen, that the Rebbe is saying, that the Alter Rebbe is saying a maimer, which the other Rebbeim didn't mention, was a chiddush gadol b'yosef. A chiddush nifla. What's the chiddush? Levushim ken mishana zayditzim. Bluff works. Fake it till you make it. What's the source of fake it till you make it? Well, they convert merecha. It's exactly what the maimer says. You understand? But he doesn't say fake it till you make it to be happy. Fake it till you make it that people should think you're nice. Fake it till you make it you're a dumb idiot. Fake it till you make it you get smart. That's what says in the Maimer. Fake it till you make it you're a miserable, rotten, no good guy. Fake it till you make it you become a nice person. That's a big chiddush. And in Avodah, it's not an easy chiddush. In Avodah, it's an almost impossible chiddush. Tell a person, in the words of the Rebbe, ish rabbe etzem, put on levushim of a ish tayv. Act kind, you'll become a kind person. And then the ikke chiddush, come with a shoite, it's Alter Rebbe's word, a shoite, and repeat divrei chochma, that's the very chochma. Let me ask you a dumb question. You know, dumb questions aren't dumb at all, right? Do you agree with Alter Rebbe, Ms. Maskell? You understand, you don't have to answer. But you get the question. If a person is called Alpi Teda, Ish Rabbe Etzem, a bad person, if he's going to act nice, he's not going to become nice. And the guy's a shoita, he's a fool, has no seichel. He's going to repeat Divrei Chochma, the hurts Chochma. He's not going to become smart. So push the kashas. And that's what this Maimer says. That the Alter Rebbe brought a possible, they can't have made merecha. And he was masbid in of levushim, and he was masbid the mile of levushim, right? Not the chassadah, the mile of levushim. What's the mile of levushim? That you can fake it till you make it. A person who's totally stupid can act smart and become smart. A person who's totally mean and evil can act kind and become kind. It's a chiddush. Where does it say? Does it say nanat? Does it say in Ayin Beis? Have you ever come across a maimer to tell you something so radical? Bemis, you've heard the expression fake it till you make it, yeah? If anybody asks you what's the mocker of fake it till you make it, that's the mocker. I need you to tell me yes, no, or gay kaken, say something.
They never said this man twice.
When was the second time?
Earlier,
also word for word, as Avi State and Gates.
I think the same like connect, but the different take that they're pointing out. Even if you're learning the tail and I feel the canter, the fact you're learning tail, that is up
and it's based on the same Maimed Alter Rebbe, not a different one.
I think so.
It's the same Dibur HaMas. But it's nicht a chiddush, huh? You don't think it's a chiddush? It's an unbelievable chiddush. It's an unbelievable chiddush. It's an unbelievable chiddush. It's an unbelievable chiddush. You know, Chassidus Chabad talks about his bonus.
So you think that Rebbe made it?
Huh? The Alter Rebbe said it.
Do you think that Rebbe should put that koyach in the world, that without that maimer we wouldn't have that koyach, and now because of that maimer we have Pasha the koyach to change it this way?
Well, the Alter Rebbe said it. The Rebbe quote
the Rebbe's tight
is chazering, right? But he's masbid the pratim of the maimer. Why you have to have two mashalim? Why one mashal is not enough? Right? The pratim, right? So anytime a Rebbe says chassidus, he brings a koyach into the world. But if in other words, the Rebbe is masbid the maimer of the Alter Rebbe. Now let you and me analyze the maimer of the Rebbe. What does it mean that if I am dumb and I'll act smart, I'll become smart? What does it mean that if I'm a mean person, I'm a bad person, I'll act kind, I'll become kind? What does it mean? In Avodah, what does it mean? Practically, what does it mean? Guys, punch me in the nose, throw an egg at me, but do something. I can't talk to a...
It means you want the ketchup, can I pass you the salt? Maybe you want to hear a lumdus? I don't know.
I want to hear a lumdus, yeah.
That's the word. The shite that comes to the guy and says, you want to hear a lumdus.
Yeah.
He knows lumdus like I know two girls in New Zealand. But
you're a lot smarter than the shaitan, Alter Rebbe's Maimer. I promise you that. I think the answer is Pasha to Ratzin. I think the word is Ratzin. If a person wants something enough, the Chitzonis will change the Pnimis. The Chitzonis and the Etzim. In other words, it's a Lechatchila Rebbe word. I think that's the word. Lechatchila Rebbe is a good dogma, or Shtus the Kedush is a good dogma. But this is a Pnimisdik Lechatchila Rebbe. I think what the Rebbe is saying is that acting a certain way can change your whole Pnimius. But we all know that that's not true. People act certain ways all the time, and it always blows up in their face. You know, you want to act like a Edel Chayid, you want to act like a nice person. If it's not real, it's going to show itself eventually. I think the word is, if you act that way, and you really want to be that way, the combination of acting that way, plus Ratzin, makes it real. And so you want to say that the Rebbe is Mamish Chanuk Kayach in the world. I have no issue with that. But I'm talking from an angle of Haskalah. I'm talking from an angle of Haskalah. The Rebbe, over the course of his Nesiya, said, 1,600 Maimorim. I used to think it was over 2,000, but the Rebbe didn't say 2,000 Maimorim. Someone made a cheshbon. It's between 15 and 1,600 Maimorim. And the Rebbe's Maimorim are very interesting. Right? We used to say that the Maimorim of the Rebbe is simply making a kitzur of Kutatei and Teireh. It's not true. The Rebbe's Maimorim are the Rebbe's Maimorim. Whether they're short or they're long, they took 5 minutes, they took 50 minutes, Rebbe's Maimorim. Oftentimes it looks like he's pushing a chazing a man from an earlier Rebbe. But if you pay attention, you'll see that he mischazes. He chazes it wrong. Not he chazes it wrong because he's making a mistake. He's chazes it wrong because he wants to say different. The Geboy from the Maimed, the Yesod from the Maimed, the Mokkah from the Maimed, is a Maimed from Friedrich and from Reb Nishmaseid, from Reb Marash, from Tzemach Tzedek, doesn't matter. But if you pay attention, you see what he's saying, he's actually saying something quite different. And this is 40 years of Chassidus. This 1,600 Maimon of the Rebbe, which looks like it's Chazing and it's Alamonayis. And these Maimonim with the Alter Rebbe that the Rebbe Chazed are unique. Why? Because Maimonim from the Rebbe I gave a shir this morning. And I mentioned the Maimon of Bamidbar, Suas Resh Bnei Yisrael. It's a Maimon from the Rebbe Neshmasei Nayin Ches. Now, I didn't look it up, I didn't prepare, but you have that Maimon from the Rebbe Marash, you have the Maimon from the Tzemach Tzedek, and the Rebbe has the Maimon. It's the same Maimon. All the Rebbe said the same Maimon, but you say Cherish and say Tasteless. The Rebbe said the Maimon to the Suas Reish Meisah. I forgot what year, but I have the Chamal Gitan in these Sachen. It's a Maimon. All the Rebbeim said the same Maimon, and if not all, 5 of the Rebbeim said the same Maimon. 6. Here's a Maimon that no Rebbe said since the Alter Rebbe. Zemashu. It's his epis, it's his epis. It's his epis. You could sort of say that in a certain way the Iker Koch should be in these Maimonim. Because this is the Iker Chiddush. The Rebbe is going back to the Mokker. He's going back to the Alter Rebbe. He's taking a moment that the Alter Rebbe said that the Rebbeim after him have been nit entwickelt. And he's saying it in its original. The first Rosh Hashanah of the Rebbe's Nesiyas. The first Rosh Hashanah of the Rebbe's Nesiyas, the Rebbe said, Amam Kved Malchuscha. Tavshin Yud Beis, Rosh Hashanah. He said word for word a Maimon from the Rebbe, I think from Samach Zayin, Tavkuf Samach Zayin. And in the middle he put in Hezbir. Now there's no tape of that, it was Rosh Hashanah. But the Rebbe Pashut said the words of the Alter Rebbe, and he would periodically stop and say Hezbir. Now the Sugye is Yesodistic, the Maskil Mami Yem to verstehen that first Rosh Hashanah Maimon, that's the Yesod of the whole Sugye Binyan HaMalchus. Rosh Hashanah goes on Binyan HaMalchus. All the Rebbe talk about Malchus. The Friedrich talk about Malchus. The Rebbe Rashab talk about Malchus. The Rebbe Marash. Where does it start now? The Rebbe this Maimer. It's a short little Maimer. But here's the Rebbe took a Maimer from the earlier Rebbeim for the Alter Rebbe. It's gesagt. Sometimes he said a Maimer from the Alter Rebbe that you have the same Maimer from the later Rebbeim. When the Rebbe used to chaz my years, he would say a lot of the Maimonim, Chelik Choshev with Maimonim, 60, 70, L'Teireh L'Kutatei. But these Maimonim, the Rebbe's a Teireh, L'Kutatei Teireh, you have from the Mittler Rebbe, you have from Tzemach Tzedek, and from the Rebbe Marash. And the Rebbe said also L'Kutatei Teireh. This is a Maimon that none of the Rebbeim said. So L'Choyre, it's a Cheftzeh, it's a Chiddush. Now what do I want with this? What I want with this is that we should learn the Maimon of the Rebbe. That's what I want with this. I learned Maimon from the Rebbe, and after all my years of being young, now that I got old, I learned over from the Rebbe, and I have a Gvalge Koch on the Maimon of the Rebbe. and to try and see what the Rebbe is doing in the Maimorim. Everybody kochs in the Rebbe sichas. Very few people koch in the Rebbe's Maimorim. Because people just assume, yeah, he's saying what the other, he's just repeating. But it's so natural. It's so natural. And here's an example. Here's an example.
Did you find any other Maimorim like this?
From the Rebbe?
Yeah,
Many.
I think about that with Mizaki in
Tafshach Hey.
Cafe,
Yeah. So there's no Vadat with another Rabbeim about the Zeshakon Choch, but there's no another Rabbeim. Either Chav Beis or Chav
I
Gimel.
don't remember.
I'm listening.
Base. I mean, maybe there's. I'm not fucking all the Maimorim. How would I know?
Right, yeah. But you're saying it because you heard it. This time you heard it from your father. Can I tell you an amazing thing?
No, I didn't. I just learned that Maimer, and I don't remember any Maimon Mekaymish from other Rabbeim.
It's a short Maimer, yeah? I'll tell you a moed in the Kamais.
Yeah, that's right.
My father-in-law died Tes Nissen. Tes Iyar, Tovshin Ayim Beis, 8 years ago, yeah? Pashas Kedoshim was around Tes Iyar. I was with him. The last couple, I was with him 24 hours a day, yeah? That day came in the mail 2 Sforim. The Maimorim, Teres Menachem Tovshach Hey, came in the mail, and the Sefer Teres Menachem. The brand new Sefer. So I took it across the street, and in the morning that he died at night. That morning I learned this Maimon Vadat Bezogen. When it was Gezag Bal Peh. The Shver, it is Gezag Bal Peh, he knew it by heart. I was reading it, and he was saying it was me. That's my demont. The day he died, I was reading it inside, and he was saying it by heart. From Tafshach Hey. It was quite impressive. I don't mean to upset you. I'm just telling you a Maaseh Shehoya. But whoever asked the question, Shalom Ber, you asked the question, yeah? There's a whole year where the Rebbe said, my man of Nathnanem. Chav Beis or Chav Gimel. Every week was my man of Nathnanem. That was the year the Rebbe said the Matzim Kippur and Maimer. You know, there's one Maim Matzim Kippur. You know what I'm talking about? There's one Chal Adam Liya Ba'el Meyit. Matzim Kippur. That's a Maim of Rebbe. Tafshach Chav Gimel, right? Right? The Mugadik Maimer? Yes or no? I need someone to talk to me. I can't.
I
can't hear.
think so. I remember the Chal Adam Liya Tafshach Chav Gimel. I don't remember if it's Mugar, man.
It's Mugar, yeah? That's a Maim of Rebbe. And that year the Rebbe was Pashat Chazring every single Shabbos. That was my morning. Again, I wasn't born yet, but Berel Lipsker, your uncle, our senior mashpia, said the Rebbe used to chaz word for word. He would even say the Vidals. There's a very famous tape from Chavdal Tevis to Chav Gimel. You know the story of Chavdal Tevis? It was 150 years. The Alter Rebbe's Istalkus, and the Rebbe made such a big deal out of it. He verbringt Shabbos, he verbringt Motzei Shabbos, and he verbringt Sunday night. Motzei Shabbos was Chavdal Tevis was Sunday. In the winter time, Tevis time, Shabbos goes out 5:30 with Ois Shabbos. The verbringen was called for 10:30, not for 9:30, 10:30. Why? Because the Rebbe said he wanted to come in at the exact moment of the Alter Rebbe's Petira. And the Rebbe came in, according to Berel Lipsker, at 10:37. I heard from a different guy earlier than 10:30, but the Berel Lipsker at 10:37. So everybody knew that the Rebbe and the Bechlal, this even I remember, the Rebbe was punctual to the minute. 1:30 was 1:30, not 1:29. The Rebbe was to the minute on time. The Rebbe kept clock like not normal. The Rebbe was so mesuder. And if the Rebbe came in 7 minutes late, the Fabrenga was bediuk. Hat man jemals gesagt, why did the Rebbe come in 10:37? Because that's the moment of this others. Tzemach Tzedek writes, Ki chatzi shah kedem shah achas esrei. The Rebbe passed away approximately 10:30, 10:30. But it doesn't say bediuk. The Rebbe came in 10:30. So the Rebbe came into the Fabrenga. That was very, very emotional. You hear in his voice. He asked that he started off with a hakdama, that when you say a teir on a yartzeit of a tzaddik, it's a pidyon nefesh, was man the line to Baal HaYilula. Then he asked that they should sing the Alter Rebbe's niggin, and then right away the Rebbe started. You heard the tape? You ever heard the tape? The Rebbe started right away the Maimer, Ein Megal and Rose Teir al Lamisha Libedeg Bekirbig. And he said the Maimer exactly like the Alter Rebbe said it. And when he finished, he said, Und zu sagen, and then beer, and the Rebbe said a few minutes of beer. The next night was Sunday night, the Rebbe made again a Fabrengen. And this was one of the most unusual Fabrengens ever. Because Sunday night, Chavdal Tevis was the dinner of the Lubavitch Yeshiva. So the Rebbe didn't want to Fabrengen until the Rasha came back from the dinner. The Rebbe came in at 5 to 12. Fabrengen started at 5 minutes to 12 at night. The Rebbe waited for the Rasha, not for the dinner to finish, for the Rasha to come back to the dinner so the Rasha could be Mishtatif in the Fabrengen as the Rebbe came in. And that night also the Rebbe said a Maimer, also based on the Malten Rebbe. There was a whole tkuf. So the Chayre the Vart is the Rebbe was saying one of the Malten Rebbe, which the later Rebbeim Pashat never said. It's like sort of Chiddush. You jump from Deira Rishon to Deira Shvi and you pass over the Deiras in the middle. It's just something to think about. So it's something to think about. L'chaim Yiddische Kinder, l'chaim everybody. L'chaim lebracha. So what does it mean Suffolk birthday? What means Suffolk birthday?
The doctors argued. One doctor said Ben Hashmoshes, and one doctor said it was after Ben Hashmoshes.
So it's either Yud Beis or Yud Gimel
Sivan.
Sivan.
Like Gimel Yudalit. It was like this Kviyas.
Or Yud Gimel or Yud Dalet. So you're born Mamish Shabbos.
Like
you came into the world of covered Shabbos. So did your mother light candles? So did your mother light candles? My brother was born 4:15 on the Erev Shabbos in Kislev, also like that. You know why women light a candle every time a new baby is born?
No.
Because there's an assumption that the first Shabbos after they had a baby, they forgot to light. That's the reason. Al Pidin, you light 2 candles, no more. How come I asked the custom for each child? So it became already a tradition. Because there's an assumption that the halach is if a woman misses neshek one time, she has to light an extra candle for the rest of her life. So there were ladies who used to come to the Rebbe's HaKofis and they wouldn't light licht. Simchas Teda, they would light 25 candles every week because they missed so many Simchas Tedas in a row. They didn't bench licht, so they had to make up. You know, if they had 10 kids, with them and their husband is 12, and with the Simchas Tedas they given 20. Should they? But not every woman who has a baby forgets to light candles Friday afternoon. But as I go in the minik, that the reason a woman lights the din is you light an extra candle if you missed, and the reason you light a candle the baby is born because you assume that Shabbos you didn't light. So you'll ask your mother that question, but you should know that the Rabbanim have a whole shaila where they're turning on a light, an electric light, can count as a Hadin Shabbos Kiddush. Because if you think about Milsa B'Taima, so of course the Shaila is being fire, the Bali Nigla. The Milsa B'Taima is the whole word of Neder Shabbos is Shalom Bayis. You turn on a light, it's Shalom Bayis. It's lichtig, it's nicht finster. So Shas Bracha v'Atzlacha, so sein gesund und stark. Euch für in der Kavana.
Amen.
Und sicher sein zu der Gule Schleime. Amen. So sein gesund und sein freilich und sein mutzlich und wachsen und wachsen. Und my grandfather used to say, steigen und steigen. Okay, achsidische Nicken kann man doch sagen. Achsinische verbringen, voran der Wort von der alte Rebbe, leben mit der Zeit. So the Rebbe used to say that the alte Rebbe said that leben mit der Zeit. How did we know what this means? Because the Mittler Rebbe. The Mittler Rebbe asked the alte Rebbe, was meant leben mit der Zeit? And the alte Rebbe said,
I think it was his brother, not the Rebbe.
The Maril? The Maril? Yeah. I think the Rebbe used to say the Mittler Rebbe. Es kann sein, dass an Yem steht das, but I'm almost sure that the Rebbe used to say through the Mittler Rebbe. Could be. But I'm almost certain that the Rebbe used to say that we know from the Mittler Rebbe. But I could be wrong. Of course I could be wrong. I'll be the first to admit. But that's the word. The Alter Rebbe said leben mit der Zeit. The Chassidim didn't know what it meant. And if I'm almost positive that the Mittler Rebbe, that the Rebbe used to say that the Mittler Rebbe had him gefragt. Anyway, so leben mit Zeit mit Pasha Shavua. But Lachaera, leben mit der Zeit meint Chitas. Right? It's meant Chumash, Pasha Chumash. And it's meant also Chumash, Tilim, Tanya, Rambam. Whatever the Shurim are that day, says leben mit der Zeit. The Torah of that day is a Heirah. That's why the Rebbe of the Fabrengenischen used to very, very often, he always spoke about the Chumash. And in the years of the Takon of Rambam, he always spoke about the Rambam. And sometimes the Rebbe would speak about the Tanya, and the Rebbe used to speak about whoever's speaker is on, and I can hear your whole mishpacha.
Mayor.
If you could put yourself on mute, will give an azeh like gesagt.
I'm sorry.
I don't know if it's you. Whoever's talking about California in their house, you put it on mute. Anyway, so the Chayra Leben Medetzai doesn't only mean Chumash. It means Be'ikeh Chumash. But it doesn't only mean Chumash. It means all the Shurim of Chitas. All the Shurim of Chitas. Chumash, Tilim, Tanya, Rambam. Leben Medetzai. If was a Heintige Tanya? Was a Heintige Tanya? Huh? Heintige Tanya is Hagodol HaGiber, right? Hagodol HaGiber. And you have over there a very, very starke Loshen. That's the bekocht sich an dem, yeah? Was meint Hagodol? Hashem is great. Midas HaGedula means the Eibishter's Chesed. And Midas HaGedula, which means the Eibishter's Chesed, is that the Eibishter's Chesed is bligavul. The Eibishter's Chesed is bligavul. But Alter Rebbe explains it in a few words. But the Teichen HaDavar is that the mitzvah, the Midas HaGedula of the Eibishter could create Elam is an Eifen of believable. Now, the word is, there's a word, and the word I can good verstehen. The word is this: we always assume that the meaning of the word creation automatically means that he's hidden. In Hebrew, it's Helem vehester habeira me'anivra. We automatically assume that the concept of creation is, you know what, there's a world because you can't see the Eibishter. And that's not true. It's not true. If the Eibishter creates the world with Hagodol alone, or to say it in different words, if the Eibishter creates the world from Havaya without Shemesh or Mogen Havaya Lekim, you'll have a world just like ours. You'll have, was it to say, worlds that are Ein Safe and Ein Kates. And you'll push it see Eibishter. You'll push it see Eibishter. In other words, the Eibishter's creation doesn't have to be in a way of Helem V'Hester Beri Manivra. The Eibishter Keich HaGedula could create Elemes, Ein Safe, believable, that should be actual world and be the total state of the Eibishter. And there's a very simple mashal for it, you should know. There's a very, very simple mashal for it. The simple mashal is Eir HaShemesh. Light from the sun. Light of the sun comes from the sun. When the light of the sun comes from the sun, that's Bria. It's not Ilav Yolo. The light of the sun is created by the sun. And of course, the nimshal of sunlight is Ein Sof. And light of the sun is created by the sun in such a way that you know exactly where it comes from. But it's two things. There's the sun and there's the sun's light. And in the nimshal, there's the Eibishter and there's Ein Sof. Eibishter Linus, Alakus. Mitzad Midas HaGedula, the Eibishter could actually create a world, and this world will reveal him totally. That was the chitas of today, of Yud Beis Sivan, yeah? What's tomorrow? Tonight, tomorrow? Hagvura. Right? I grew up on Rabbi El's tapes. I didn't have too many shurim of Rabbi El. When I was in 770, which was not for very long, Rabbi El didn't give shurim a lot. And if he did, he gave shurim on the Rebbe only. But we grew up to tapes. The tapes of Tanya, the tapes of Samach Vav, the tapes of Ayin Beis, we listened to the tapes. And on the tapes, Hagodol HaGiber, Hagodol HaGiber, Hagodol HaGiber, it's a use of Rabbi El Sprach, Hagodol HaGiber. Hagodol means that it's a koyach ein safe of creation. Hashem could make and make and make and give and give and give, and it'll be real creations. It won't just be Ilav Yolo, which is only Gilead Helam. It'll be actual creations. And total kiruv. Total kiruv. In other words, you'll see a world and you'll automatically know that this is the Eibishter's world. It'll be dvekas. But then what's that Giber? What's that Giber? Hashem hides. What's that Giber? Hashem hides. And the whole word of the Alter Rebbe is Hein Gvoresav. Right? Did any of your mashpiyim ever cash in on this piece of drama? Hein Gvoresav. Alter Rebbe says Hein Gvoresav. Hein hein Goresav means just like you're impressed by the Eibish's creation, you should be impressed by the Eibish's concealment. When you look at the world and you don't see God, you're looking straight at Him. Just like Hagodol. Just like if the Eibush created the world only with Hagodol. Anything you'll look at, you'll see Dvekas, you'll see how it's the Eibush. When you look at the world and you don't see the Eibush, you're looking at the Eibush himself. How am I looking at the Eibush himself if I can't see that it's the Eibush? Because that's the koyach of the Eibush. Hein hein that it takes the Eibush, only the Eibush can hide so well. Hein hein the helem v'hesed of a lakus is a lakus. The concealment of the Eibush is Eibush, because it's an Eibush like koyach to create that kind of a concealment. Verstehst? You have to, you want to use a mashal. What's the mashal? A guy commits a crime. Or he does a mitzvah b'seisen, maten b'seisen, and the Gemara wegen gibt stocker b'seisen. And I spring in an even a ganze meise. People give stocker b'seisen. So if a person does something in this world and he wants to hide, how successful can a person be at hiding? How much success can a person be at hiding his identity?
Not so much.
To an extent. The bottom line is, if you have enough money and you have enough will and you have enough resources and you have enough technology, you can solve every crime. They call it today forensics. If you're interested, you can find out who did it. It's just a fact of life. It's just a fact of life. I didn't see it. Sometimes it's easier. Sometimes it's harder. Sometimes it's more direct. But if you want to solve a problem, you want to figure out who did this, what's the cause and what's the effect, it's easy. Except that Eibush did. The Eibush creates a world, and you see zero evidence of his creative power. Right? All of the people who run around screaming evolution, all those people who run around screaming Big Bang, what are they saying? They're saying you look at the world and you don't see evidence of the Eibush. Or as they would say, you look at the world and you don't see a need for the Eibush. It looks to you like the world is Elam Kim and Hagi Noyeg. The world is able to sustain itself. You don't have to have pipes and wires or influences from outside in order to sustain the world. Says the Alter Rebbe, you should know when you look at this world and you don't see the Eibush, that's the Eibush. Because only the Eibush can hide so well. Only the Eibush can hide so well. Only Hashem can do an act and leave zero clues as to who he is. Whether it's a good act or it's a bad act, only the Eibush can hide so thoroughly. So the Alter Rebbe says, you mispal from Hagodol, be mispal from Hagibur. You mispal from the Kecha Chesed the Eibush. Lahavit Yeshman Blikvul, be mispal from Hagibur. What's Hagibur? That the Eibush is able to do things and hide in such a way that we can't see any evidence of him whatsoever. And in your mind, in your Me'ach HaSeichel, you can tell yourself that I don't see the Eibush that is seeing the Eibush. And it's the Chitas. Yesterday's Chitas, that we Tafshin. Yud Beis Sivan's Chitas, and today's Chitas, Yud Gimel Chitas. This is the Chitas, right? Hagodol Hagibur. Hagodol Hagibur. Chaim, Chaim. What's the lesson? What's the lesson? What's the lesson? The lesson is a lot of people... There's an expression in English. It's called inspiration. Yeah, Hashem has to forgive me for bringing bad stuff into the yeshiva and corrupting the Bachrim and poisoning their pure, innocent minds, yeah? But actors who perform in shows, some of them are performing live, some of them are performing on film, need motivation. You give an actor a part. Tell him, I want you to rehearse these lines, I want you to do this act. And you have to go into character. You have to become the person you're supposed to imitate. You're supposed to look like him, you're supposed to walk like him, you're supposed to gesture like him, you're supposed to speak with his accent, yeah? So when an actor acts, if he's a good actor, he's so alive, he's so living, it's as good as the original. But in order for that to happen, he needs an inspiration. Inspiration means he needs a chayis. You can't just do it min asafa l'chutz, right? You can't just be, v'sachimar in peya. You're acting it out, like you said before, the Mishnah. Yeah, it's got to have an inspiration. Everybody needs to have an inspiration. Everybody needs an inspiration. Inspiration usually means a special thing. In everyday life, you don't see inspiration. You go to a museum, you listen to a concert, you read a book, you meet a big chocham or a big shaita. Whatever the case is, people have inspirations on special occasions. But most people, most of the time, don't have inspirations from the regular day. It's boring. How do they in Teenageville? It's boring. Now, you guys would know this because you don't know what teenagers are. I used to be a teenager. I have children who are teenagers right now. But you're tzaddikim, so you don't know what Tipesh Yisrael is. B'chlal, b'sheitish, the ganze geschäft. Yeah. But kids complain that there's no inspiration. What's the answer? The no inspiration is the inspiration. When nothing is exciting you, you should be excited because what you're seeing, when you're seeing nothing special, is Atzma Seinsa. Rabbi Paltiel was a very frume Yid, but he was also a very chassidish Yid. He was also a big mukusha. Rabbi Paltiel always said Shir Amalas, never said I'm not his bubble. And he always found a reason not to say I'm not his bubble. He didn't want to say I'm not his bubble. If he had a guest or whatever it is, what would happen if it came a day that there was no guest and there was nobody to invite and he had to say I'm not his bubble? He used to say the guest is al not his bubble and say Shir Amalas. The guest is al not his bubble because he never said not his bubble. The guest is al not his bubble. Do the special stuff with Shir Amalas. This is the lesson of the chitas. The lesson of the chitas is to have inspiration every day. Get up in the morning. What's today? Nothing special. I'll tell you a cute story, but I won't tell you any names because today a lot of these people, when I was a kid growing up, we were little babies. Now we're big machas or whatever the case is. Big, whatever it is, we're big. So we went to, I was in California for the summer of 1979, and we went to Tijuana, went to Mexico. In those days, Tijuana was still very primitive, it's not like today. So we all crossed the border to Tijuana. Some of us bought things, we bought chess sets, we bought shtusim babel. Anyway, we were coming back, we had to go through the American border. I was 13, I wasn't even 14. I had a friend who was 14 years old, but he was built. And he had a beard. And he had tinted glasses. And he had a big rimmed hat with a pointed pinch like this. He had pointed as a down. He looked like a gangster. And we all went through the border. And each one was asked, did you buy anything in Tijuana? Are you bringing, they wanted if you brought drugs. It was a regular routine thing. So this guy comes up and says, did you bring anything back from Mexico? He says, nothing special. That's all he had to say. We were stuck by the border for 2 hours. Nothing. What does nothing special like? Nothing special means figure out what I brought. And they took him into a room. The kid was 14. He didn't even know what they wanted from him. And they wouldn't let the counselors, 14. They wouldn't let the counselors join him. The counselors were your age, Zachako. And they interrogated him for hours. Vos made nothing special. Vos made nothing special. Like the mice with the Rebbe, that Mrs. Sverdlov tells that they had the convention, the women's convention was in Detroit. My mother was at that convention. And they were snowed in, they couldn't get out. So Mrs. Popek, Allah Shalom, she was in charge of the Padish, of the Sheikh Abad. She called up New York, she called the Rebbe. She got Binyamin on the phone, Rabbi Binyamin Klein, Allah Shalom. It's weird, now when you say label groner, you also say Allah Shalom. It's hard to say label groner, Allah Shalom. But I say the Maisa. She called up Binyamin. So Binyamin was stuck in the airport. So Binyamin said, wait. He comes back a few minutes later. The Rebbe will wissen was heißt stuck. The Rebbe wants to know the meaning of the word stuck. So Mrs. Popak, in her Tmimus, is explaining to Binyamin Klein what the word stuck means in English. So Binyamin says, Mrs. Popak, the Rebbe speaks English. He knows exactly what stuck means. He wants to know what does it mean a Yid is stuck. And the Rebbe says, you're in Detroit, you can't get out. Tut Mivtzayim. And these ladies, my mother was not a Mivtzayim person. My mother's not come from the Babcha home. They were there 2 days. And they did Agavald mit Mitzrayim until the airports opened and they were to fly back to New York. But the Rebbe will verstehen was meant stuck. Right? The Mexican Border Patrol, the American Border Patrols wanted to know was meant nothing special. Hein Voreisa meant nothing special. Nothing special. Pratik. It's a boring day. Hat der Pillow Patsche gesagt, Adosse der Erech. There's nothing special about today, this is what's special. And this Alter Rebbe saying in Tanya, Sharichat Amunah, Hein Voreisa. Amen zet garnish zet men eiche dem Eibishter. When you look and you see nothing special, that's Atzvas Amos. Yeah, but it's nothing special. Only Hashem could create nothing special. Nobody else could. If you were creating and I were creating, everything we do would either be broken or special. We're talking nothing special. Nobody makes boring. The Eibishter makes boring. And the reason Eibishter makes boring because the Eibishter's boring is the Eibishter. Heinen Gvoreis. It's a practical lesson in life. You have a regular day, there's nothing special to do. That's very special. And you have to use it out for all the special things that you could do in a day that's nothing special. So it's a hira from today's Tanya, from today's Chitas and Tanya. L'chaim.
Amen.
What's your Gimel Sivan? What's a Gimel Sivan? Besides your birthday, what's a Gimel Sivan? Anybody remember what's a Gimel Sivan? Huh?
First day after you meet Hashem.
That's a good answer. It's a correct answer.
The day we start saying Tachma.
That's right. I was saying it's a nest that you'd base even this Thursday. We got the most out of it, huh? Let's take a look.
Looking at our break in Tashem MD, the Rebbe saying the Dalbavis.
On your base Sivan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, but I like Bema we sang it Al Bavis. You have to be a big chassid to do that.
Rabbi Paltiel.
I'm listening.
What if? How can?
Your Gimel Sivan is the anniversary of the Rebbe's parents. Yemei Chabad. Yud Gimel Sivan is the chasna of Rebbe Leivik and Rebbe Chanan. And they got married in Tafresh Samach. When the Rebbe was born, Tafresh Samach Beis. You were saying, go ahead.
Of a person, like, I personally have thought of that idea. Of like, my day is not really going, like, nothing's really special going on. So, like, this is all coming from Hashem. So, like, we'll go further on, We'll think of it in that way, and positive will be uplifting. So sometimes when I have done that, that hasn't worked. Does it mean that I'm not doing it? I'm not meditating on that fact enough?
I don't know if you have to meditate. You have to discipline yourself. You have to discipline yourself. The Shara Yichud V'Amunah, which is Techitas that we're learning these days, has an introduction. The introduction to the Shara Yichud V'Amunah is called Chinuch Katan. You know what Chinuch Katan speaks about? What you do when you're in a bad mood. That's what it's about. There's this kind of meditation, there's that kind of meditation, this kind of ava, there's that kind of hava. What's Chanech Lenar Al Pi Darkei Gam Ki Yaskan L'Yosem Imena? When you're in a bad mood, you're having a bad day, you fall back on your chinuch. You fall back on the way you were raised. Nothing special. When we have bad days, there's an expression in surfing, right? You know what surfing is? You know what skiing is and surfing is, yeah? It's like walking on water. How do you walk on water? You have to have a wide enough board that the water will support your weight. And the water goes in waves and crests, up and down. So when people ride waves, so when the wave hits, they open up their body, they spread out their arms and legs like a sail, that the wind should carry them. Woo! And when they get to the very top of the wave, they curl up into a little ball, like a cannonball. The center of gravity should be very close to the surface of the water. They shouldn't fall off the board. And then they crest. And then they wait for the next wave. When the next wave comes, they open it like a sail, right? You know what I'm talking about? You probably saw pictures of this or even films of this, yeah? And then when they reach the very top of the wave is about to crash, they reduce themselves to, right? Life is that way. What happens to a person when he's not waving? He's cresting. And of course, the meditation would be that after every crest comes another wave. That's the meditation. But the practical thing to do is you become a cannonball. You fall back on what you were raised as a child. That's the chanech l'na'ar al pidarke gam ki yaskin l'yoso imena. A little kid got a certain chinuch. You fall back to that when you have no inspiration. And then you wait for the next wave. And then you ride it. Verstehst? Am I answering you?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't necessarily had that idea as a child. What do you mean by chinuch as a child?
Your mother taught you how to say Meidani.
Yeah.
How to wash Negelwasser. How to say Broches. Those things are not software by you, they're hardware. Maybe putting on film is software. And even putting on film by this point, Mistama is already hardware. Special things that don't happen every day, or some things that are hard for you, that's called the software. The stuff that's branded into your muhus very deeply, this is part of your hardware. That's the chanech l'na'ar al pidak. That's what you fall back on. Does it make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I see a clip of Fornianik. By you, it's 9:15, 9:20 at night. Noch sind ich nicht gehabt. So the Sefer Yemei Chabad, in the Sefer Yemei Chabad, they have a letter from the Rebbe Rashab to the Rebbe Leivik's father. The date of the letter is Vov Tammuz. In other words, 3 weeks after the Chasana. The Rebbe Rashab had sent a telegram for the Chasana, and then there was a letter which was delayed, which he finally sent a few weeks to wish Mazel Tov. So you know that the Rebbe Rashab was a Shatchan. The Shidduch of Rebbe Tzimchane and Rebbe Leivik was made by the Rebbe Rashab. It's interesting, the Rebbe Tzimchane and Rebbe Leivik had a brother and a sister who also married to each other. The Rebbe Rashab, the Leivik had a brother, I think his name was Shmuel Shneerson, who was married to Rebbe Tzimchane's younger sister. 2 brothers married to 2 sisters. Rebbe Leivik was the older son. So the Rebbe Rashab, I'm going to read you the letter from the Rebbe Rashab to the Rebbe's grandfather, the Baruch Shneer. His name was actually Baruch Shneer Zalman. Kveid Nechededi. Nechededi means the grandson of my uncle. Because Rebbe Baruch Shalom Zayde, Rebbe Baruch Shneer Zalman was Rebbe Baruch Shalom. Rebbe Baruch Shalom was Rebbe Menashe's older brother. Yedidiyes, my best friend, Haravachos and Hamaforsam, the great and famous Chassid, Nichpad, who is honorable, Yirei Elokim is God-fearing, V'cholu Marein Rabarach Shnei Sheyich. And I'm reading. Ma'oimek levavi, from the depths of my heart, Avorcha, we're going to give you a bracha, b'birchas mazel tov, ba'at klulas benoi, for the wedding of your son. Listen to these words. Rechumoi denafshoi, the love of my soul. The Rebbe Rashab talks about Reb Leivik. By his chasana, he was 22 years old. Rechumoi denafshoi, the liebschaft for my neshama. Mar Levi Yitzchak Sheyich. Yitin Hashem, they shall helfen. Shezivugam Yal al Yafa, that their zivuk should be beautiful. Barich es yomim v'shonim tevim, long years and good, long days and good years. And even that are pleasant, beruchnius v'gashmis, spiritually and physically. Ubahatzlocha, b'kol apratim, and to succeed in all details, b'deir yesharim, in a beautiful generation. Zed aberech ad Hashem, the seed which God blesses. Kefir Ratzon, according to the wishes of Kvei Gedushat Avesenu HaKadoshim HaHelik HaZeidus. Ukavoida, he concludes, and you, Yekaba Vehem Einig V'Nachas, you should get from Reb Leivik and the Rebbe Zechana much pleasure and much nachas. Dai Cheftzei, as much as you want, V'chol Prat Prat in each detail. And then it says, Megedel Tirdasi, because I was so preoccupied, Nis Achar HaMichtav, the letter was delayed. A telegram, better kill Bizman, they sent a telegram to the day of the Chasaneh. V'yikablu achayim v'asholem, they should get life and peace. V'abracha and blessing me'adein Hashem, from the Master of Peace. Ka'avas nafsheh, as is the soul, as you desire. Uben deidi, and as I desire. Yedidi is your best friend. Deire shleime, who is seeking your benefit, your peace. V'leiv and nefesh chafetze, with a heart and a soul which is of desire. Tamid kal yomim, constantly. This is the letter that the Rebbe Rashab wrote to Reb Leivik's father in conjunction with the Rebbe's Chassan. So tonight, Yad Gimel, is the Chassan of the Rebbe Rashab and the Rebbe Tzanchane. And Sunday is Tezvav Sivan. Tezvav Sivan, if I'm not mistaken, the Rebbe said it's the yard site of the Rechaim HaKadosh. Am I right? Anybody know? I think the Rebbe said Tezvav Sivan, maybe either Tezvav Sivan or Tezvav Tamas. I think it's the yard site of the Rechaim HaKadosh. But Tezvav Sivan, as the Frierdiker was arrested. And the Rebbe would sometimes make a fabrengen on Tezvav Sivan. And they used to say that it's Aschalta de Giyula. When something bad happens, you don't celebrate it. But if just after something bad happens, there's a Geula, then in hindsight, you say, Yerida Tzerech Aliyah, the beginning of the good was when the bad occurred. So since the Rebbe Nayas was saved from jail, and he left Russia, and he came to...
It seems like it's Tezvav Tamas.
How do you find it so quick?
Just type yard site of the Or HaChaim into Google.
Moire Meruim, Google Hagon. Hagon will Google. Okay. I heard the tape that I was talking about. It was a big chiddush to me. Because the Frierdiker never mentions it. The Frierdiker never mentioned the Rechaim. The Frierdiker Rebbe never mentioned the Rechaim. In the Polish world, they make from Rechaim the Baal Shem Tov's competition. They make the Rechaim bigger than the Baal Shem Tov. The Frierdiker Rebbe never mentions his name. Never. I mean, mentions his name, but never. And the Rebbe, Tafshin Mem, all of a sudden the Rebbe says, Chassidim say amazing stories about the Rechaim, and Mistama they're true. And Mistama they're true. Tafshin Mem. 30 years into the Rebbe's Nasias, there's a whole fabreg about the Rechaim HaKadosh. I'm sorry?
Seems like he lived 46 or 47 years.
He passed away Tov Kuf Gimel, right? 1743?
1743, yeah. Born in 96.
Where was he born? In Salonika?
I don't know. It says it's Saleh, Morocco.
In Morocco? Morocco.
Yeah, and then he passed on in Yerushalayim.
So. And Rechaim HaKadosh had no sons, so he taught Torah to his daughters, like Rashi. He had no sons, he taught Torah to his daughters.
Right, Rabbi Paltiel, I have a question. The Frierdiker was arrested at Dalit at night, or was it like Tezvav at night?
No, Yudal at night. It was 4 o'clock in the morning.
So it was Tezvav?
Or the Tezvav, yeah.
Oh, so, okay.
No, what's a Bleivik's niggin? Anybody? The way you sing it, it's dead already. It's D-O-D, dead on arrival. Oh, why, the Rebbe's father, yeah, the Leivik. The Rebbe Rashab calls him Rechumoid and Afshoy, the love of my soul. The Leivik. He didn't learn Temchatim. A lot of the people who were his own age, like Chanya Maraza, for example, they were born the same year from the first Talmud of Temchatim. The Rebbe's father didn't learn in a yeshiva. The Rebbe's father, the Leivik. So it's a double yadua that let me give you a vart. Our own Mendel Baumgarten was busy for a month giving out a sefer on his aid. They gave out 500 books, 500-page sefer on the Yankel Shvei's Shloshim. So one of the stories they have in the book I read it just this afternoon, is the following story. Yankel Shvei, Olav Shalom, the Chen Levracha, Rabbi Shvei, was in Poking in Germany, where there was a whole section of Lubavitchers, Anash. And two guys showed up. They were Polish, and they were not from anymore. That was after the war. A lot of people stopped being from after the war. And I assure you, nobody judges them. And they came from Lodz. The story is missing details. The book was made very quickly. The book is amazing, but the book was made with a lot of mistakes. It just says Poland. They were from Lodz. And in Lodz there was a famous chos. His name was Zalman Schneers. Zalman Schneers from Lodz was called Zalman Lodger. The case of the Zalman Lodger. In Montreal there was a yid by the name of Gringlas. The Menachem Zev, he has three names. Something Menachem Zev. Halevi Gringlas. He was Makabel from Zalman Lodger. He was a little boy, the beautiful neshama with a very good memory, a very pure soul, very pure body. Zalman Lodger was a tzaddik, was a gohev narid, was a chassidish yid. So in this book of stories that they gave out from Rabbi Shvei, there's about 60 pages of stories. One of the stories, he says he remembers being in yeshiva in Poking in the Lager, and they had barracks. Everyone went up to the barracks, and two young alike walked in, two Polishe, who knew Reb Zalman Lodger, Zalman Schneerson from Lodz. In the book, he just calls them Zalman Schneerson, which is very tricky because there's more than one Zalman Schneerson in the world. And they sat down, and they started to sing with Reb Zalman Schneerson Gedavnt. And as they were singing with Reb Zalman Schneerson Gedavnt, just by singing his name, they sort of went back to Lodz, and they had such a Heseder Tshuva. Rabbi Shvei says they were crying, but Mois Shlish. I heard it from Rabbi Shvei also. Rabbi Shvei used to work in yeshiva. You know that. 20 years ago, Rabbi Shvei worked in Chayv V'Teira. So Rabbi Shvei describes two young light who had once been frum, who now unfortunately at that moment they were not frum, and they were singing the way Reb Zalman Lodge gedaven, which is the tnuah for sein davenen. And they had they were such, they started to cry with such a srachus, such a seder just by remembering the way he davened. Anyway, this Reb Zalman Schneesen from Lodge was one of the three that the Rebbe Rashab said about them. That when Mashiach comes, he's going to take them by the hand. He's going to introduce them to Mashiach Sitenu, and he's going to say, look what I raised. So one of them was a Gon in Niglif. This was at Mendel Chaim. The Mendel Chaim, he was in Yezhin Erov. I was in Yezhin a couple of years ago, and they have his Matzeva. He was killed on Kiddush Hashem in 1918. That Mendel Chaim, he was such a big Gon that if he knew that the next day had a Din Teira, he would sit down on his bed the night before, and he would absorb ganz Cheshem Mishpat. He would say Baal Peh the whole Cheshem Mishpat as a preparation for the Din Teira. He had a moedinik cup. And he was a big chassid. The Mendel Chaim was a giant of a chassid of the Rebbe Rashab. So the Mendel Chaim was a Gon in Nigla. The Zalman Schneesen of Lodge was a Gon in Kabbalah and Chassidus. And the Rebbe's father was a Gon in both. And the Rebbe Rashab said, Mashiach had come back, and then we did right by my hand. I'll take these three, I'll bring them over to Mashiach, and I'll tell them, look what I raised. So the Rebbe Rashab was very close to the Leivik. Reb Leivik was famous. I'm going to stand up because I'm falling asleep here. Baruch Hashem. Reb Leivik is famous for his Kabbalah. Reb Leivik is famous for his Kabbalah. Can you see me? Yeah? Just 1 second. Yeah, okay. The angle is funny, but at least you can see something other than my Hallelu navel. Reb Leivik is famous for his Kabbalah. And Reb Leivik said Kabbalah, you can see it in his writings. The guy knew everything. His Bekias is crazy how much this man knew. And he plays with Teda. Plays with Teda like a child plays with fingers. Shas Bavli and Yerushalmi and all the Midrashim. Seir, Kisvei Arizal. And you could literally see that this guy, he had such a yeda, he knew so much. And he knew it so deeply, and he's a machadish. Reb Leivik is a moedinik machadish. You see the fanem of this person, and all of his writings are code. He writes in Kabbalah, he writes in code, gematrias, alt soidas, which means that for a regular person to write what he writes would be 100 times as big, because he's writing just as it is. So Reb Leivik was famous for his Kabbalah. So somebody once asked Reb Leivik, "How do you know so much? How do you know so much Kabbalah?" So he said, I was taught. The Rebbe Rashab taught me. So the one who's asking him the question said to Reb Leivik, if we add up all the minutes that you spent in Lubavitch, it doesn't add up to how much Kabbalah you speak. You speak so much more. So Reb Leivik answered, Klolim. I was given Klolim. I was taught how to analyze Kabbalah. I was given Klolim how to analyze Kabbalah. Reb Leivik. The Rebbe once told us Rebbe Fabringen. The Rebbe once told us Rebbe Fabringen. There's a new krach of Igros Kodesh. Here. There's a new, it's in the back here. There's a new krach of Igros Kodesh from the Rebbe Rashab that came out about 2 years ago. It's a skinny little book. It's krach vov. In this krach vov of Igros Kodesh, there's a bunch of letters from the Rebbe Rashab to the Rebbe's father. They found someplace in Russia a whole bunch of new letters from the Rebbe Rashab to the Leivik. One of the letters is about the Rebbe Rashab's smicha. What happened was the Rebbe Rashab was living by his shved. The Rebbe Rashab's shved geheißen the Meir Shleimeh Yanovsky. He was the Rav in Nikolaev. Rebbe Tzachana's father was a Rav, was a big Rav. And Reb Leivik lived in their house. All the 3 boys. The Rebbe's parents had 3 children, right? There's a Remes. Fine mebel. Mebel means furniture. Beautiful furniture. Mebels, the Rosh Tevis, Mendel Battle label. They used to say about Reb Leivik and Reb Tzachana, fine mebel, beautiful furniture, Mendel Battle label. So the Rebbe's parents lived for the first 10 years after the Chasana in Nikolaev, and then the job opened up in Yekaterinslav, and the Rebbe's parents moved there. When the job opened up, there became a big fight. Because Yekaterinburg was a big city, it was a modern city. And by 1909, there were probably already 20 different teams. Basically a whole bunch of different kinds of Jews. Everybody wanted it off to be theirs. Chassidim, Misnagdim, modern, not modern, the whole thing. The Rebbe was Mesa Nefesh, the Rebbe Rashab was Mesa Nefesh, that the Rebbe Leivik should get the position. So the Kehillah complained that the Rebbe Leivik doesn't have smich.
Right.
So they said, what do you mean you have no smich? It's 5 smiches. So they said he has Chassidish smiches. Or Chassid with a Chassidish smiche is like a Misnagid with a Misnagish smiche. It's like it came from a Cracker Jack box. For the Blavik smiche to be recognized, he had to get a smich from a Misnagdish Sharov. Nishka Chassid. So Blavik went to a number of Rabbanim and got smiche. We know their names, they brought them this Sforim, yeah? One of the people who gave the Rebbe's father smich was Reb Chaim Briski, Reb Chaim, the great Reb Chaim. Reb Leivik went to Brisk. He spent a few days. They found the famous Maisa with the sukkah, with the sukkah itself as the Eidav that the Rebbe spoke about before bringing. And Reb Chaim gave him a smich. So in this new Kachavigas Kedesh, a letter from the Rebbe Rashab to Reb Leivik, but the Rebbe Rashab writes to Reb Leivik, he says, when you get to Brisk, he says, I haven't had a chance to write to him about it. The Rebbe Rashab and Reb Chaim Brisk were very close. He said, I haven't had a chance to write to him about it, and I can't just stam as they write him. I need to have a good pretense. He says, but go. The Rebbe says, go. He'll give you smich. Ki hu yirei shamayim be'emes. The Rebbe Rashab says to the Leivik, go to Brisk. Rab Chaim, even though he's a misnagid in your chassid, he will give you the smicha. Ki hu yirei shamayim be'emes. So the story was, Reb Leivik came. Reb Chaim gave him a head for days. It wasn't 15 minutes. For days. He sat in his office a whole day. Any child that came in, Reb Chaim told Reb Leivik to pass. That's how they did the smicha. So after the Rebbe's father spent a lot of time with Reb Chaim, and Reb Chaim saw what Sarakoptas is, Reb Chaim said, Leivik, Azar gute Kopf und guck wo du legst him. You have such a good head, and look what you're wasting it on. He meant to say wasting it on Kabbalah. Azar gute Kopf, you have such a good head, guck wo du legst him. You're taking your brain and you're putting it away in Kabbalah. Line up like Gemara, weißt du. Azar gute Kopf, it's from Reb Leivik. Reb Leivik's years in Nikolaev, when the Rebbe was born, and the Rebbe was very little, he was in a very Chassidish place. Nikolaev was a Chassidish city. The Rav was a Chassid, and the Sheikhet was a Chassid, and Lamed was a Chassid. Reb Oshen Nikolaev, these all famous people. And that's where the Rebbe was born, as the Rebbe grew up. When he was 7, they moved to Yekaterinburg. Yekaterinburg for the Rebbe and his brothers was a culture shock. It was a modern city with all kinds of Jews. The Rebbe's mother, Rebbe Tzanchana, rented a very big apartment, and she wanted each one of her sons, she had 3 sons, to have their own separate room, so she was able to learn and daven undisturbed by anybody else, even by their brothers. And the Rebbe Tzanchana used to say that I had to fight with the boys to eat. The Rebbe and his brothers were such masmidim, that the Rebbe Tzanchana said I had to fight with the boys to eat as on wellness. And this is his Rebbe Leivik, Rebbe's father. So the Messiah goes, the tradition goes, I don't know if it's true, as Rebbe Leivik knew what the Tzemach Tzedek had said to his Elter Zayda. Rebbe Leivik's Elter Zayda was Rebbe Baruch Shalom, Tzemach Tzedek's Bechor. And the Tzemach Tzedek told Rebbe Baruch Shalom not to become a Rebbe, even though he was the firstborn.
Gute Nacht.
Ah?
Gute Nacht.
Gute Nacht. Atzlacha dike Chtos. Atzlacha dike Kishim Shalamita. Und ich hatte das Bracha Vatzlacha mit alle Brachas in der Mebischen mit Teva Nere Van Nigle. Begashmi so Beruchni, so Beruchni, so Begashmi. And the Rebbe says Beruchni, so Begashmi is Gam Yochad.
Amen.
So das Teva, sei Mitzliach. Amen. Ich krieg for the mind, man. Ich krieg for the Lekonef Eid Merecha. The Lekonef Eid Merecha is given an Oifim from Lo Yikonef. Anyway, so the Rebbe the Tzemach Tzedek had told Rebbe Baruch Shalom not to be a Rebbe, and he promised him if you're not going to be a Rebbe, you'll get double. But you're going to have to wait 4 generations. V'dei Revi Yeshivuhin. Rebbe Leivik was 4 generations for Tzemach Tzedek. Rebbe Baruch Shalom, Rebbe Levi Yitzchak, Rebbe Baruch Shnei, and again Levi Yitzchak. So he felt that he's supposed to be a Rebbe. L'poil, when the Rebbe Rashab passed away, Rebbe Leivik did not become a Rebbe. The Chassidim didn't make him into a Rebbe. But when the Rebbe became an Eidim, and Friedik and Rebbe, when the Rebbe became engaged to the Friedik Rebbe's daughter, so Rebbe Leivik said, I made a mistake. It's Taket Tzemach Tzedek said is true, that it's going to come back to us in 4 generations. But you don't count the 4 generations from the Tzemach Tzedek, you count the 4 generations from the Baruch Shalom. And I heard a story, okay, I'm going to have to finish the Fabrenga with this, but this story I want to share with you. This will be the closing remarks. I heard a Moedin de Kamais that, I heard it from a good source. I know the names of the people. That there was a Yid by the name of Rab Simcha Gorodetsky. And Rab Simcha Gorodetsky was in Yekaterinoslav at his parents' house. And one day the mail came. Reb Leivik looked through the mail, came to one letter. He put it down. He went to the other room. He put on his hat, put on his kapota, he put on his gartel, and he came back in to read the letter. So Reb Simcha Gorodetsky asked Reb Leivik from Vamen de Brief, whose letter did you want to put on your gartel and your hat and your kapota before you read it? So Reb Leivik answered, from dem Zun, from my son. So Reb Simcha said, that's how you respect your own son? So Reb Leivik answered him, which means, he passed me long ago, Reb Leivik. He passed me, Reb Leivik recognized, he passed me long ago. And it was Ad Kedei Kach that when the Rebbe used to write a letter to his own father, his father used to put on his garter before he read it. In any case, let's call it a kvitz, a shtick of Faberich ben Gehat, ja, a paar minuten, get a paar Wörter, so l'chaim v'levracha, a gute Nacht, a guten Shabbos. We want Mashiach now.
Ad Mosai.
Ad Mosai. Good night, everybody. Good night.